back to the No Say Project. It's October 18th, 2014. We are live on coming from the fortified compound in Mesa, Arizona, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM. And we're talking with Joe in Illinois, and I guess we're kind of pulling the rug out from under Joe. It's not why he called. However, I appreciate you staying on and going through this.
I'm having some hard epiphanies here, that's for sure. But the one thing that really disgusted me is, I've never been in the criminal system. I've had a few civil actions, which I've taken care of myself. But for the most part, I had no idea how this thing works. And I did sit down with a couple of lawyers, because that's the same path everybody else trod. And what was shocking to me is that when I spoke to these guys about what about my protected rights? What about my right to this or right to that? And what about we have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Told me point blank. He said that all sounds good on paper, but it's not how it works. Now, that tells me that everyone up to this point who's been saying our legal system is broken is not only right, but they're not the ones that broke it. It's the ones that are using it who broke it, in my opinion. And we have to stop that somehow. I mean, we don't want to get to a point, believe me, you do not want to get to a point where you have to resort to violence just to keep yourself safe. I've been in places like that. It's not good. It never ends well. And the only people who always end up on top are the ones that can detach themselves completely from humanity and become animals.
Well, sure, we don't want anything like that. A voluntary society, of course, is one that the services of protection would be provided on a voluntary basis. They're just not, they're not going to be forcing us to pay. And I look at it something like maybe like Alcoholics Anonymous, so just like Status Anonymous, although, well, we all go through this. This is a process. A friend of mine that I had some contact with this, I mentioned at the beginning of the show, he hasn't gotten to a point where he can resolve these conflicts in his head. He doesn't care. So whether it's booze, drugs, women, I don't know what he uses to dull that, but he just doesn't question things, and he strikes out at you if you do question him, and it's very religious in nature. But we've all gone through this. The thing is, the system is not broken. The system is acting and is doing exactly what it was designed to do. And that's why if you look at history, again, Ray Raphael, a guy did a fantastic job of this. One of the ways that they were able to, the people in rural Massachusetts were able to throw out the British government was by shutting down the court. It has always been corrupt. Yeah, there are certain guys that'll follow certain rules a little bit better. Yeah, but the system is based on you pay me or I will kill you. So you're going to have these problems. So the system is doing what it's just that it's getting more and more blatant in its abuses where they're not paying attention to, hey, we need to make it look good. It's got to look, but now with all the cops shooting dogs, shooting people, it is so rampant now. Now with technology that people can see that, it looks like the system is broken. No, but the thing is to get back to the court stuff for you, Joe. Having this understanding and knowing and looking at things more accurately as they are is going to help, I believe, and I think the evidence proves this, that you'll be able to be a lot more effective in court. So what you're not going to do is no longer, to use your word, assume that the laws apply to you just because you're physically in Illinois. So instead of giving the prosecutor a pass on that argument, which is it's just an argument, you're going to challenge that. You're going to, okay, so instead of going out and looking at these other levels of the charge, these other arguments, let's go at the base. So let's look at the foundation of this charge and attack that. Because if you can knock out the foundation of the prosecutor's charge, nothing else matters. So because you'll be showing there's no jurisdiction, so regardless of what he's accusing you of, at least this particular court has no jurisdiction and has to throw it out. And so from an anarchist standpoint, being that we reject the concept of rulers and that it's wrong to initiate force, when you take it from that perspective, you don't give those free passes to the prosecutor, and you can hear the call to shames. I'm going to play one on the show today. Hopefully, we should be able to have time to. And so you can hear that when you for yourself, and you can make up your own mind whether this is an effective way or not, you can hear them not be able to support their arguments. And it doesn't matter that we're on the phone. They can't do it any better in court. So, so I mean, did you hear the call of shame with the last one we did with the IRS?
No,
okay.
I didn't. Sorry.
Listen to that and listen to the on this broadcast today, because it's really good examples of how easy it is to show that they have nothing. And sometimes they'll, like with John Buttrick, they'll admit that they have no evidence, and that's what the IRS agent did. And I think the IRS is, for the average person would be more afraid of them than going into court. But I will listen. Yeah, we'll play the call of shame. I've got everything hooked up. We'll do that. This should give you a lot more confidence in doing that. But just from what I've walked you through, you're really. And I just want to point this out for other people who may have done time in the military. One of my I have regular contact. He listens to the show. He's been on the show. He's a great guy. Talking about Mike in Michigan. So big props to Mike. He was a combat vet in Vietnam. So, and it's not an easy thing. I'm not saying that this is easy to accept. It's not always easy to accept. And the more you have invested in it, the harder it's going to be for someone to accept the plain truth. But there's a mountain of evidence on the website that you can make an objective viewing of, it is an objective record, and I'm talking about federal magistrates, prosecutors, IRS agents, and even Blum, University of Vancouver, a law professor in Canada. So there is no evidence these laws apply. Zero. And that's why we can confidently say on the show and give $5,000 to anybody who can actually prove that just because you're physically in Illinois, the Constitution laws apply to you. No one's able to do that.
Well, it says, though, in the statute, and maybe you can clarify this for me, but I looked up, of course, the individual codes that they're charging me with.
Right.
And it says that a person is subject to prosecution in this state for any offense which he commits while either within or without the state by his own conduct or that of another for which he is legally accountable.
Right.
Sorry, I have my glasses on.
That's okay.
And then it goes down to the list, other supporting facts, which are all written into the code, which we assume is based on legislation that was passed by our representatives, et cetera, et cetera. So why doesn't that, here's my question, why does that not apply?
Because that's what we call in logic circular logic. It's like saying the Bible is true because the Bible said it was true. Now, the Bible may be true, but it's not true because it says so. And that's why. Okay. Because and that's why this is why it's great, the call of shame that we have today, because I walked the agent right through that process. So just between us, and this is something that you do with the prosecutor. It's in the motion to dismiss.
I read that. It's quite nice. It's quite well written.
Well, thank you.
And I must add that I at this point I don't know if I agree with everything you say, primarily because I'm a little ignorant and I'm catching up, obviously. And it's taken me a long time because I grew up on a farm and they're typically very patriotic folks and very loyal to their country, and I think a lot of times that's taken advantage of. But
yeah, it's there for a reason.
Yeah. So in presenting this in court, if you could give me a brief synopsis of exactly how you would step up to the podium and go through this, because the judge isn't going to read any of it.
Well, they don't always read it, but they have read it. We've had them, we've had them read from it. We've had them quote it. So I would say that there's some that do, there's some that don't. It depends on the judge. Some of them may just look at your motion and just automatically deny it. So some do. The way I would do it, look, remember, and this is why the call to shames are so important, because you can hear them for themselves. It's not something that I'm making up. So what I would do is I would object, and I would say, what evidence has the prosecution provided to prove the Constitution laws apply to me, if there's any jurisdiction at all to even have me here? And that would be my starting point. Okay, but we're at the top of the hour break, so we'll get into this some more in the next segment, and we'll flesh this out, because the call to shame is going to be perfect for you today. But we'll be back here on the No State Project in just a moment.